leading causes of death combined. Our white counterpart died from homicide in less than 8% of death. Nearly 70% of homicide in 2014 were firearm homicides, which means roughly 34% of Afro-American males who died between the ages of 15 and 19 are killed by a gun. Given the disproportionate gun violence, the NAACP is having our communities. The NAACP has advocated for a number of sane, sensible laws. But with that, if you go to our website and you look at the 8 or 9 different ideas or goals and objectives that we're talking about to address this, it's really not addressing guns. I mean, you can talk about assault rifles and things of that nature, but it does not get into the heart of our communities dealing with gun violence. And there's that age of 15 through 19 of Afro-American males. So I'm just saying that for those members who completed the response team, again, if you look at our duties and responsibility of that team, the incident that happened last Tuesday on Maple Street, on Merchant Street in Kankakee, that could be possibly a part of the response team addressing that toward the families, assisting our respective communities. So again, that was something I just want to mention of the response team. And help me out, Chief Swanson, was it the incident that we don't have a representative from Bradley, but the incident that we had in Bradley, probably a month and a half should have been also something that our response team could address. And it was an incident happened at Hobby Lobby where alleged individual was somewhat roughed up by the Bradley police. However, we never got the video. You know, it was mostly hearsay information. And so with the response team, it is a must that if we're going to investigate or that team going to respond to any incident throughout the county, we must have the factual information when you guys come together. So again, welcome. We're dealing with incidents in Kankakee County, well, it's Mantino recently that happened, that the Village of Mantino Police Department quickly solved regarding the stabbing. So again, I don't know if it's, I have our duties and responsibility here of ensuring the safety of our community, the response team ensuring the safety of officers, diffusing tension with those individuals and communities involved in crisis to fully more understand the crisis, and then we want to somehow implement various solutions. So I want to applaud you for completing that training, and again, to remind you how important you are as a community representative to be on the Kankakee County response team. So with that, before the meeting, I'm assuming, so the spokesperson is Donna is going to be, so we want to get a motion and a second to make that. Moved by Lori, second by Karen. Are there any questions or anyone else? Donna? In the mic? What's that mic? I'm sorry.
I'm curious as to know when this group would mobilize. Who pulls that, who pulls that hand that says, okay, now it's time for you guys to get involved? Because I think that as community members, we have to also respect what law enforcement is doing, what this looks like, and we need to know when that movement needs to take place and who informs us it's time to take a look at this.
Okay, I think the answer to that question would be the NAACP and Chief Swinford, Hunter, and Mason I think we would, and then we would forward that contact incident to you, and then the members here present, I'm assuming you guys at that time would come together and, well, and then, because we won't be doing the investigation, because we want to make sure there's transparency. Valon Jordan, Ms. Butch Riley can have a voice in the community where some of us not. So we, correct. I'm sorry, Valon, 26. Go ahead.
The information or ask for the information, like for instance, the Hobby Lobby incident, you indicated there was no, you never got the tape or whatever.
Right.
So in order for us to effectively meet, we need to have that information with us. I don't want to come to a meeting only to say we need to get more information.
Correct. Absolutely. That's it. So, Al.
Donna has a conflict, or if she was not available, would you need a person as an assistant?
That's a good idea.
Would- Yeah, you would need an assistant, a person who would fill in per chance she's on vacation, had a conflict, et cetera. And I guess in making the motion, would you be amenable to having Donna as a primary and Chief Swinford as the secondary spokesman?
Well, no, I can't be a spokesman because no,
You know?
because I got a conflict of interest. but,
Okay, that's fine. But you need a secondary
Yes,
person.
yes.
And then maybe at that time, another person steps up and says, I'll be your backup. I think we might be putting somebody on the spot today, and I don't want to do that, because there's a lot here that you really need to talk about, ask questions,
Makes sense.
and that way you guys can determine who would be that second person. And as long as we need to know.
With that, this is July, August, so our next meeting will be September. So that group can meet separately again. What would be that meeting date? I'm not looking at the calendar.
Why don't I get together with Donna and we'll come up with a meeting date, a location, and an agenda for that meeting, and that would just be for the response team, and maybe that way we can talk
Okay.
about the process, what a sample type of situation might be, and get more into the details that we didn't in the training.
You got a motion on the floor.
Rhonda, I can't hear you. 30.
Also establish roles, you know, who's going to make sure people are contacted, and who's going to follow up with all the evidence, and, you know, she may not want to bear all that herself.
Good idea. I'll coordinate with them on that and get something done before the next meeting, and we can report back at the next meeting this and see where we're at.
Okay.
And as far as your question about who would call them out, you know, this group is still in its infancy at this point, so, you know, right now it would probably be the NAACP or me or somebody calling them out, but as things progress, hopefully more people will know about this committee, and really could be about anybody could call them out. It doesn't have to be, you know, if the police feel things are going fine, we're probably not going to call them out, but if another group doesn't feel things are going fine, they might, so that might be a work in progress on how they would get called out and who they would contact, but
Okay.
right now it'd be more likely the call is going to come to you.
Right,
And
like
then
it did.
it'll filter down.
Right. Okay, so our next meeting will be September the 8th, 12 noon.
Still got that motion on the floor.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? Motion carried. So the other piece is that we have, on my way here today, and Ms. Claudia, you know, that's a couple other individuals. So can the committee, Chief Swinford, you and Hunter, and Mason, and we got Professor Stroud here. So can we look at maybe the next 2 months or so we can do another training?
No, Andy, can we?
Andy's here, I forgot
You're
to
half the training.
So,
We'll
I
have to
mean,
look at his schedule and see when he's
Look at-
available. Yeah.
and then that'll give us an opportunity also to meet with the person at KCC who took Bridget's position.
The simulators at Olivet, not correct, though, so we'd have to do it at Olivet.
Is it Olivet? Okay.
You talking about simulator? Yeah, they had it there because we were talking about for the traffic stop thing, but I don't know it's fully functional.
Okay, so we'll work on the training for those, and then that email also that we had went for some of those individuals who was potential members of the response team.
Yeah, we need to shore up that list then, because
All right.
we had people from our previous list that didn't attend, so maybe we recontact them and at least get enough people in the class to make it worth doing.
And that student component too.
And one, real quick here, give me one moment.
I got Sims on there, I didn't think he should.
So I did make an attempt under item A to either have Senator Elder Sims in person or via Zoom. That didn't happen. And so again, we'll try to have him in our September 8th meeting. And also I had a conversation with State's Attorney Rowe to see what updates and where we're going with Senate Bill 3653. So that's another piece that we need to look at. And Chief Barber's not here.
Yeah, it's been signed. I don't know if the governor signed it.
It's not here. Chief Password, is there any update? McKay, we can get one from the county for updates on body cam. Chief Passwater, anything? Updates on body cam?
We just got the estimates back maybe 2 weeks ago, but also made up a good presentation for the city budget committee and safety committee. Talk a little bit about what we want to do.
Okay.
Grant money's available, if not, since it's already in our bond, we want to talk about that first.
Okay.
We've looked at several companies. They've got the bid sheets and stuff ready. Trent and them are working on it. So we'll be ready to go when
Okay.
this kicks off. One of the things the sheriff wanted to do is to assist the other local agencies, the smaller departments that may not have the resources, and to jump on board with us. Obviously, a volume purchase is going to get a better, kind of like when we got the in-car cameras, how we got the grant and shared it. So he's still in the process of working on that. But that'll help some of the smaller villages and agencies that may not have the numbers we do and help them with the costs. Because one of the biggest parts of the cost, the equipment's the equipment, but the storage is going to be substantial.
Okay.
You know,
Now, I know Bradley should be rolling theirs out probably by the end of July, if I'm not mistaken, so we're there. The next item is dealing with the incident that actually happened in Kankakee last Tuesday, and I had communicated with Chief Passwater. But before we get that, there's been, I probably have had at least 20-plus conversations from last Tuesday up until yesterday evening. And the rallies that individuals put together, it's good to go to the rallies at that moment, but an hour or two, you know, we have to deal with solutions. And if we don't come up with policies, we have to have policies, something in black and white, how we're going to address gun violence. And gun violence is something new. We just stated it's a national problem. and his gun is pistols. And it's something that we're going to have to deal with. So in the meeting I was in last night, one of the main topics was parental support, where our parents, and I sort of maintain, I don't know, it's a lack of activities, because if you look at all of the different activities, Kankakee School District probably have about 10 or 15 different youth type programs. NAACP have a youth council, Garden of Prayer have something, the YMCA, the YWCA, Little League Baseball, East Side Football, I can go on. But in the meeting, Mary, yesterday evening, someone said it's about 20 individuals. And I don't know, Chief, 20 individuals, but I do know the two, and they are TWIN. And I don't know how we're going to address, no names, but, everybody in here could be collateral damage if we're around certain people. And I don't know how we can pull the response team to address that. I see Rhonda shoot Valon, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to share my video from my camera of my home with law enforcement. So how can law enforcement address the issue in our community if the citizens are not participating to make sure that person who pulled the trigger is arrested? So that's just another piece. So I was there last Tuesday, and with Detective Hunter, Movedini, I was there, and when the person say, "Oh," meaning I'm not. Well, you can't talk to me now. You maybe talk to me afterwards. But I'm not going to share my video with you. So that's another piece. So Sheriff, you can, and then the person that you might be talking to, Valon, myself, and a few others. I know Butch, you text me, but I had already been there, and I have the pulse of this community, and so I know Hunter did it, but I'm not going to tell because that's going to be retaliation. So we as community leaders and professional response team, political leaders, we have a lot on our plate, but if we can't coach, I can't run the football, I can't pass it because everything is in my quarterback hand. If I don't train that person to be able to succeed as a quarterback, it doesn't matter that if I have the top running back on the team or in the league to score and to gain yardage. So we don't have all the facts. If we can have the necessary resources, and I was in the CDA advisory meeting last night, and I know the president is looking at maybe with some of the stimulus money that we can put in strike force. We just got to, it's parenting. I don't believe it's all about lack of activities, because we can have activities every day of the month, every day of the year, but some of the individuals that we're not gonna reach.
Well, I guess I have to disagree with you on that, because it's not, you mentioned the Y and East Side and all that. That is something you go to for an hour or so and you go home. What I feel this community needs is similar to a boys girls club,
that came up
where
last
you
night
have
also.
mentors that are paid and that they mentor these kids, because a lot of these families, I don't know what's inside your house. I don't know how your house is run, but I do know there's no direction. There's no responsibility. No one's taking charge for some of these kids, from them being out in the streets the way they are with no supervision. I can't tell you what you're doing in your home, but as a mentor, if I develop a relationship with a child and they have a safe place they can come and be and do tutoring or arts and crafts or after school things, if they get to know you, then you won't have that lack of communication with who did it, because then there's a trust. There's a sense of trust that I have to have with you in order to open up to you, and that's what we're lacking in Kankakee, because we have a lot of families that have moved here from all over. I'm 63. I've been here all of my life, other than going to school. And I can't tell you half of these people who they are.
Yeah.
And they get Section 8 housing. They come here to stay here for a couple years so they can transfer somewhere else. There's a systems issue. And when they're here, they bring their kids here maybe for a safer place. But guess what? With them comes that baggage. And how are we as a community going to address that and know who we're dealing with?
Yeah, but that's part of the discussion. It was Alderman, and then I got you.
Yeah, let me just say
Then we
this,
get
you
to
know,
the chief.
there's probably a multiplicity of reasons. You know, I grew up in a nuclear family, meaning I had a mother and a father in the household, and limits were set. You know, I don't know how many times I had my ass whipped by my dad and mom, and you know, I'm probably better for it, but you guys remember back in 93, 94, 95, Kidwell, Passwater, Virginia, you guys remember that there were murders almost, it seems like every week. There were shootings, proliferation of guns, and so forth. What happened back then was Carol Frankie was the community liaison with the city. All those neighborhoods were organized. All of them were, and that was, you know, Doster came in with a magic wand. It wasn't easy, but Verlon, you just mentioned one crucial thing is about trust. Things evolved when the neighborhoods were organized in terms of groups. You had the training in terms of the different ordinances, the different departments, what the police did, ride-alongs with the police. Anyway, and there were things were better. There's trust established. There were more eyes and ears in the streets to help the police. And I think at some point, he's only been in here a couple months, but he's made a commitment to do that. In terms of having a person to organize those neighborhoods and putting more eyes and ears on the streets, because Mrs. Smith, you know, who is 70 years old, looks out the window all the time, those kind of people came to the training in those neighborhoods, and they would call the police. You had the police at those neighborhood meetings as well, too. You had the city attorneys coming in, explaining the ordinances, the rules, regulations, how you do it, riding on all shifts. Crime just doesn't happen, you know, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. You know, right along with the cops on a Friday night from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock, you find out a lot of different stuff. So I just think that the neighborhoods need to be organized. You're putting more eyes and ears on the streets and trust, and they'll call 933-3321 and report that stuff, or 911.
Well, yeah, Donna.
One of the biggest talked about programs and that's going on right now that I keep hearing about is the living room.
I can't
can't hear.
in your mic. 40. Yeah.
So I was saying one of the biggest talked about programs and endeavors that I keep hearing about is the living room. And they are meeting the needs of people right where they are. And we have to understand, and some of what Verlon was saying and then what Mr. Hunter was saying is absolutely correct. And to have something like that meets the needs of that population, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's just meeting people right where they are from people who understand. And so I, as a adult white female, cannot meet with a 16-year-old black child and say, I understand. Let me make it better for you. And so when I see the design of the living room, it was created to encompass acceptance and the trust that Mr. Hunter talks about, so that if I have that issue or that concern, I can come in and I'm meeting with a real peer, not someone who just says they're there to help me. And I think that we've got to be able to get in touch with people who have come from this life and reach back for this life And that's what we try to do within some programs, and it can be very successful. And right now, we're just saying that on the forefront, the living room is it. And so I think if we look at something like that for the youth, just as Mr. Hunter was saying, back years ago, there were things that were happening, and we have to be able to be where the rubber meets the road and get out in the street.
And when you go
But
in the
what do
community.
they care if they see us? They have to see someone who looks like them, that they can relate to, who maybe survived that situation. And so you have kids coming from backgrounds that they have no food at home, they have no family structure, they don't even know where mom and dad is at, but yet we expect them to be productive. We got to have someone who has that same like-minded background and said, you know what, I made it too. And I think that kind of programming would be real helpful.
That, and like I said, last night, it came out about Boys and Girls Club and all of those activities, and indicated again
But
of
are
the.
you reaching those kids who need to be targeted, though? Let me just say that I know I just spoke, Theodis. Now, you were with the school district, and you have a relationship with hundreds of kids who've come through Eastside Junior Football, hundreds of them, and the girls as well too. 300 kids every year that you guys are involved with. You take them to Minnesota, you take them to Detroit, you take them to Florida. Those kids, their lives are turned around based on what you were doing. Additionally, you being in the school district, and you can go to Che Che's house and see him raise his siblings because the mama's out doing this or that, the daddy's absent. That's a crucial component as well too. Maybe, have somebody that, looks like you and talks like you, clone you. I'm not sure if it's going to make a difference with Willie Hunt being in the school district now in terms of security. And it's more than just watching the buildings, but they need a person like you who knows kids and knows the generational kids in the community, and that they need to be here.
So, Lori, then we're gonna, move on.
We already do have a mentoring program, and obviously we need to expound upon it. The state's attorney has an awesome program for mentoring, and isn't it through Avis Huff that his people
You
are?
gonna jump?
Yeah.
Is it-
So
Yeah, and
really,
problem
we already
there
have a
is not
program.
enough
We just
men.
need to expound it,
Expand it.
expand.
Yeah.
Well, he's having a difficult time finding him.
Mentors.
Unfortunately, his biggest thing was, I have to.
Right.
I don't have to mentor. It's going to step up and take on that responsibility. And again, it's about knowledge and knowing and putting it out
Sure.
there, going to places where we might get some young men and young ladies, because it's not just young men are shy. Young girls are jumping girls.
Yep.
Seriously, we've got high school girls jumping on junior high girls at public events in town. That's happening right now. So it's not just that the boys get shot and the girls get jumped. It's unfortunate, but you're not into this TikTok and all these little different places they go with all this drama that there's a lot going on and a lot, it's not getting, I think we have to start somewhere with our youth because we're losing our youth. And having COVID for a year didn't help matters. It really didn't because they were at home creating stuff to do.
Yes, good.
Lori, one thing I could ask, because it just occurred to me, I don't know what the job of a mentor would be. So maybe someone could do a feature on it in the news, in the newspaper, or just let people know what is expected of a mentor. Because there's probably an awful lot of individuals that are going, don't want to do that because they have a preconceived notion of what they might have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you told them what was expected of them, they might go, oh,
Yeah.
I could do that.
We did, Jim did have a introductory meeting. We had it at the YMCA, and it kind of went through the whole process and then what requirements for being a mentor meant in terms of background checks and different things like that. But yeah, I can push Jim and ask him to try and get something more out there again. Because I know he's having a difficult time, and
And what you might think of doing, maybe, I'm thinking, I don't know all the other stuff, but he did a short video this year.
Sure.
I share all the stuff.
yeah, Yeah, because he does have dedicated staff now for this. So yeah, I'll definitely get with him and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Credit hours.
So thank you for all of the comments, and then again, it's, you know, it's something that we all have to be involved in to try to assist to solve the problem, and it's again, it's going to take a village. I mean, all the community-based organizations, everybody have to be, you know, in place. So Sheriff, can you just, I'm sorry, Chief, so can you just give us an update from last Tuesday, just where we are, and if I didn't already sort of steal it?
So we've had pretty good response from the public out there, and I see now more
The Otis
outcry
mic.
from,
Oh,
I see more outcry from now, obviously people who realize what the real problem is. The police can't get involved really until there's a shooting. It's very difficult for us to get involved. You're right, there's 20 people out there with guns. There's probably 10 really ones that we know about. We know where they're out there right now, but we can't just go stop them, randomly stop them or search their house. So they're out there. So the problem is they have to do a crime, commit a crime, shoot somebody before we show up. The thing is that there's a parent in that house knows what's going on with them. They know what's going on, and they know that they're involved in activity, but either they don't call us or they themselves are still a juvenile. You know, it's never matured out of it. So we have seen more adults come forward now and saying, hey, something needs to be done, and put a little pressure on that. We do have video. It took us a week to get it. So that's crazy. That should have been there in 3 minutes. So it took us a week to get the video of stuff that we need. And that's our big thing that we go to now, is to look for video. Other than that, we have had juveniles come up and help us out. We've had parents bring some juveniles up and talk to us. So there is a pretty decent cooperation. The problem we get in these things is that the wrong person gets identified, maybe as a shooter, and then that creates another situation for us.
Like
So
a trust.
how do you straighten that out? It's pretty tough for us to go put a announcement out, hey, that's the wrong guy. So these are all juveniles. The biggest thing is that this is all probably could have been prevented. The juvenile justice system, probably nationwide, but in Illinois is really broken. And maybe when you get Mr. Sims on the phone, that we need to ask him what he's doing about that, because you can't reform everything else and let all these juveniles back out. And the whole idea, it's going to get worse, because now they're going to let everybody out without any type of bond. So every one of these juveniles involved in this has been in the process, in the system, and they keep getting back out. And the boys that you talked about, there is absolutely no reason they are out running on the streets. There's absolutely no reason. And the fact that there isn't a place where they can go to, it doesn't have to be jail, some other in-between place where they can go to and get some type of counseling, direction, where there's somebody there to watch over them. Basically, you got to have somebody who's going to be their parents until they get old enough, because right now there's nothing for us. The only thing we have available to us is try to get them detained. We try to get them detained as long as possible. However, I would tell you that there's only one juvenile court in Kankakee, and the juvenile court in Kankakee is broken, and it lets them out consistently. We can't do that. I mean, there's a boy who got arrested the other day as a juvenile on a warrant who was out in 30 minutes. But there was a warrant on him. If he's bad enough to get a warrant for him, then he should be locked up. We have, I forget how many beds up in Joliet that we can hold juveniles at. They're not full that I know of. It's just shocking for us and the officers. It's not even worth arresting them. So now the system's so broken down that Department of Corrections, if you're a juvenile on parole and you get arrested, they don't care. Usually they pick them up, take them back. It's just like you're on parole, so what? And so these juveniles keep getting back out. Every one of those kids that we've dealt with could have been probably saved at a younger age, especially those young boys we talk about. We started dealing with them when they were 9 years old. At that point, the parents were terrible, and they still are. And at that point, they could have been taken out and done something with, or maybe, we talk about these mentors. Maybe you need somebody where the court appoints as an advocate for them who checks up on them 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day and something else. But I don't know, but we just can't keep doing the same thing to the juveniles. when Steve talked before about the murders we had in 92, 93, the difference were those were really guys, adults, over 20 shooting at each other because it was over dope in the streets. These guys, this is entertainment for them right now. What reason would a 15-year-old have to go shoot somebody else? I mean, what have you done in your life when you're 15 years old to go out? Are you that mad at somebody about to go shoot at somebody else? So that's the different situation. And the speed at which they can get these guns is really unbelievable. So, I mean, we can arrest them one day with a gun, and 2 days following the shooting, we got some of these guys involved with a gun, and then 2 days later, we got some guys involved with a gun. So they can get the guns like that, and there's really nothing we can do about it. We just don't know where they're coming from, whether they stole them from a car, they get them from Chicago or out of town, somebody else gets them a gun. But I can tell you that watching some of this Facebook stuff that is put out afterwards, that the parents of some of these kids who are involved in this ring of 20 people, they're just as much to blame as the kids because they're right out there with them. They're out there making statements on Facebook. Well, that's going to get some retaliatory shooting back at them. So
Right.
that's what we're really dealing with. So I don't think it's 20. I think if we 10 people, you can make a huge difference. But somehow, when they go to court, school can identify them too. So school system, when you were in school, you could tell the kids who really needed some intervention in their life. And the probation department can, parole can, and we can say, this child here, he needs to have somebody step in because his mom can't do it anymore, or there is no dad in the home, or something. But we need to have somebody definitely step in and take over as a parent, or take them somewhere. There used to be Lincoln's Challenge, or put them somewhere where they can do something. But when they send them right back out in the street, and now they're putting them right back out in the street to nobody's even watching them. Like, they're released to mom, and mom says, "Oh, go over to live over at this house because I don't want you here." So that's the real issue with us.
So Chief, is that, we're talking about statewide, or we're talking about
I think
Kankakee
statewide,
County?
the problem is, I'll be honest with you, I think you got Mr. Sims there. He's the one leading like all this reform. Some of this reform just came through to where we can't even interview a juvenile now. You bring a juvenile in, and you basically have to bring a lawyer in with him to interview him. Now, I can tell you that you will never get a lawyer to let you talk to a juvenile. Before, and there's been some cases where juveniles falsely confess, but that should be proven up in court and being able to go through the system and prove it. But we can't even get a juvenile in there to admit that he did something wrong now. And a lot of times they will admit that they did something wrong. They were involved in shooting, or that they were in the car with this guy when the shooting occurred. That'd be nice to get that guy in the car with the shooter, and you could talk to him. But now we can't even talk to him without basically calling a lawyer. And there's more protection for the suspect than there was for any victim or the citizens in town. And they just created that system. That's a new law coming in now, and it's making it more and more difficult. So we used to solve 80% of homicides. We're down to 50%. So it's harder to solve cases when you talk to people and they say, "Well, you didn't do anything for my nephew," or "You didn't solve that case, didn't solve that case." So that's the whole idea. I hear all this, the people don't trust the police. Well, they don't trust us to solve their problems. The problem is, it's not that they don't trust us, they think we're corrupt and that we're dirty, whatever. I always hear them talk about, "Well, you never did anything for me when that happened to me. You did anything for me, my brother, when he got shot." And a lot of times they're just misinformed. We got a phone call from a guy who told us that, he said, "You guys knew that these guys were going to kill each other. You guys knew these guys are all bad guys. You guys knew the shooter. Why you guys let them be out in the street?" And we're like, "Well, we can't do nothing with them." He goes, "Yeah, you can. You can arrest them. You guys can take them." People think that we can arrest people on just the fact that we know the information, or they don't realize there has to be a witness statement. We got all this thing where you can report stuff anonymously. You can't go to court anonymously. You have to have witnesses. We can start a case and get it rolling, but there cannot be anonymous witnesses. We know that. So that is a big issue with things. People just really don't understand the law. They think they can tell us that Jimmy shot somebody and we can just go arrest Jimmy and they're not involved anymore. And the problem is that we throw their name into a case and now they're mad at us because now we got them involved. But that's the only way we can get things done. So it's a matter of informing people, and I think the other thing is being able to do something with these juveniles when they're first identified is the way you're going to stop it. And like I said, there's 10, but if there has to be something in between. We just can't keep letting them go back home.
And it goes back to what you just stated. again, how important the response team is with the goal of diffusing detention, individuals, community, like those individuals call you as well. You knew who was going to be shooting, but there's nothing you can do. And it's still, I don't care how we can frame it, still deal with the lack of trust or retaliation. Again, I'm there, and when the officers are coming up, the detective, I don't want to be seen,
You're right, and that's an issue. It's not only you have to try to interview the suspect, it's almost the same, you have to use the same process of witnesses too, because they're very difficult to get. These, okay, I won't come in now, but I can come in at night, and I can come in here,
Yeah.
and I can meet you over here, and I can do all this stuff. It's like, it's just as hard to get this witness in as it is to get the
Yeah.
suspect in.
Right.
It's very difficult to do, and I understand some of it, but I'm also tired of it too, listening to the excuses for it, because
right?
I can
Well,
tell you that people who tell us that I'm afraid to be there and I don't want to talk and stuff, the next night they're out in the same curb standing out there hanging out with these guys where they could get shot at again. So it's that excuse we can't use anymore. People have to come in. It's the only way we can get these cases solved.
So I'm curious, Chief, Mayor, so with the conversation from the president yesterday with Chief Brown, Mayor Lightfoot, I think state of, was it New York, Detroit, LA, or whatever. So, and we had that discussion about some of the rescue fund stimulus money being used regarding strike force and for law enforcement now?
I'll answer. Yeah, so those conversations are ongoing, not only, I'll call it internally, but also in the public too. So we started back in May, a monthly session where everybody can talk about how these funds are going to be used. We brought it up through the CDA committee and the Economic Development Committee. And then we're having internal conversations too. This afternoon, we have a Kinky United meeting. I know Dr. Deb Barron is pushing very hard to use some of this money towards what we talked about, having somebody that can be available 8 hours instead of just 1 or 2 hours, because you need somebody that's, I'll call it a Carol Frankie type of person. That's the full-time job, not somebody like, I'm part of that mentoring program, the Jump Mentoring Program. It's phenomenal. The reality is you want to know, it basically, it takes probably 4 to 5 physical hours a week of being with that youth. And you think about it, that's not much. And it's being available on the phone if they need to talk or text you. But for us, we're all busy people. 4 to 5 hours is a lot. So you do need a dedicated person. So we're continuing those discussions about definitely utilizing those funds. I'll go as far as it's been, the number's been determined. Is it 10%, 20%, 30%? I think it's a big number that'll be used towards public safety within immediate tools for now and also for long-term solutions for programs and stuff. I wouldn't be shocked if it's well north of 25% or 30% of our money will be going towards that, if not more.
We are putting more officers out on the street. The thing is that's all changed too. It's not the same as it used to be 3 years ago. We used to be able to we were more aggressive and we were able to do things. And now that it's really changed because officers are concerned about getting in a mess because you could lose your career with one bad traffic stop. So they're doing the best they can. They're trying to work with all these new rules and they're doing the best they can, but I think people are just going to have to understand that we are not the same as we used to be. There's no police department operating the same way they used to be. And there is just going to be more violent crime. There's no way around it because the laws have really gone in the direction of helping these guys out who are criminals. It's not for there's police reform, but there wasn't any about let's do criminal reform, whatever else, for the citizens with it. And it's really making it difficult for our guys. We've really got to build cases, and it takes a long time to do that. We're down on officers. We're trying to get a bunch hired up, but I mean, to get these gun cases, you got to have dedicated officers who can watch these guys, follow them, do search warrants and all that. And it's a huge process, and everything that we do is more difficult than it used to be.
Okay. So, September the 8th. So let me ask you this. What can individuals in this room can do, again, we can go back and revisit, and I know there's been a lot of talk regarding House Bill 3653, and, maybe proposing some additional changes there. And I will make an assertive effort to get Senator Sims, because of the 42 branches in the state of Illinois, we're the only one to have this type of venue where all law enforcement come to meet. And so this could be something that we can enlighten him on, also with our state's attorney and Senator Joyce. So we can see. Any other comments? We have about 3 to 5 minutes.
To add what I was talking to about before, the city's putting together, we hope to have it ready by August 1st. We're putting a dedicated website together that'll be within the city of Kankakee for the money that we have, for the ARP money. What we need from the community and from this group and from everybody, we need you to go to that website. Once we have it ready, we'll announce it. We need your ideas of how this money should be spent and where it should be go to make a difference. And we're gonna listen. So if 80% of the responders are saying we need X, that's where the council's gotta go. So keep your ideas that you've got, but you've gotta get it to us so that we can make sure we're implementing it the right direction.
You know, one of the other topics that came out of our meeting last night was basically youth mental health. And might be another piece that we might want to look at, Alderman.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the committees that the county's done already. We took I worked with Andy Wheeler in terms of going back to March, and we had the underserved individuals and representatives together. First meeting was out at Ryan's Pier. We thought we would be out of the city and we'd be hidden, but my God, everybody knew us, knew all the people who were there. We had the NAACP Hispanic Partnership, Recon, Black Ministers, Hippocrates, and it was like the United Nations there, the people who were there. So hopefully, Mayor, you can address and maybe speak to some of the underserved as well too, because we had all the representatives from the black ministers, we had Hispanics there, we had, it was a homogenous initially in terms of men being there, because men talk, but sometimes the women do the work. We integrated it later on to incorporate women. So we had several different meetings going from the eastern part of the county to the western part of the county. And it was very valuable because we wanted to have the underserved communities and organizations there, along with the NAACP and the other groups that I've talked about, being ahead of the game and explaining the evolution of the rules and guidelines that govern the recovery funds. And we've had individuals and organizations pulling together ideas and proposals, for the use of the funds. So that may be a template of what you guys want to do, Mayor, in terms of those underserved groups and organizations. And they're pretty cerebral in terms of some of the ideas and the discussions as to what to do.
So it's, any other comments?
I got one question, and it is, I wanted to really address it to, this is a new item. The police departments get IDOT grants for stops, and I know 1/1/20 through the present, they haven't been doing a lot of stops in terms of that data that they get. I was wondering from Bradley, because, there are perceptions out there about driving while black and brown, not so much in terms of Kankakee, Bourbonnais, and other places, but wanted to hear something from those folks, but Barbara's not here, so I'll interface with them about that, because I had a conversation with Mayor Watson about it, and I think he received some feedback from Chief Barber, but I'd like to get it face to face and find out if there's some kind of adverse impact in terms of you get the IDOT grant and you provide that information in terms of the race and sex of the people that you stop, and, there's just some concern about, that particular, village.
Okay, so you're gonna be,
I'm gonna
reaching
talk
out,
to 'em, yeah.
to 'em. Again, Chief Swinford, so we're gonna meet with the new person at KCC and, see what we're gonna do with, additional training for individuals who want to be a part of the response team. Want to thank Donna Sample for accepting to be spokesperson for the Kankakee County response team. And then those members, those members who are part of the response team, I'm sure after in the last 40 minutes you have really engulfed how important you are to your community now and regarding the duties and responsibility of the response team. And so again, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule for this meeting. Our next meeting will be September the 8th, 12 noon. And again, we'll see, can we get Senator Sims or a representative, either person or via Zoom. And Mr. Hunter, you think we can probably get Senator Joyce, maybe see what his schedule is for our next meeting? We could do that, and Mayor Webb, the website will be up on August 1st. So Victor, how can people get an opportunity to tour the living room? I know you have had like an open house or whatever, but for those individuals who are not aware, you stepped out and Ms. Sample mentioned the living room. So how can a person get a tour of the living room there?
Our doors are open. We're there from 8 to 5 every day. You can just walk in and just mention my name or call me and I'll have them be waiting for you. We'll be very happy to have everybody come into our facility.
Thank you. So with that, can we get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Ms. No, second by Ms. Gadbois. Thank you. See you September 8th, 12 noon. Thank you.